Well, I finally have some time to come on here and give a little bit more thoughts on Thursday's game and just kind of go over some of the stuff that I had suspicions of for this game personally and kind of in years past because right now I'm starting to get vibes of past Steeler teams from the past couple of seasons. And while I don't want to overreact in this video, and I don't want to overreact on the season based on the fact that, yes, it was a short week, and yes, it was against a division rival again, the fact remains that I do get vibes from previous seasons. So let's just get into this. Good Monday morning, everybody. I am Mac, back with another video. As always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram, link down in the box below. So just touching up on the things from Thursday's game against the Browns that really, I think, not only bothered me and that I took away from it, but the entire fan base at the same time. And like I said, I'm not going to overreact in this video. I'm not going to say that the season's over and that we're going to go on a massive losing streak. But I'll tell you, coaching was awful. Coaching from Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith from Thursday's game were just horrendous. And if you watched any part of the game, then you'd understand what I'm talking about. So we all know that awful mishap that Tomlin had with accepting the penalty after he had initially declined it. But I don't think Arthur Smith's play calling goes unnoticed for what happened on Thursday's game. And, you know, I don't want to give up on Arthur Smith just yet. I don't. Because I do feel like, you know, this offense can work under him. And we've seen it in previous weeks. But Thursday's game, it reminded me if this guy was Matt Canada with just a little bit more variety. That's what it came off to me as. So the biggest ones here, I mean, you got to take a look at the 4th and 2 that the Steelers had. And when you're running an RPO like that, nobody was open. I agree with the aggression. You put Justin Fields out there. But the thing about having Justin Fields out there for some portions of the game is that the packages and the design plays by him, it just failed in every way possible. Because, like I said, if you're going to use Justin Fields as an RPO type of guy, you got to have receivers open. That 4th and 2 play where the Steelers went for it and they had Fields go for an RPO play, nobody was open. He had an opening in his left lane, couldn't find it. Swallowed up immediately. Browns knew it was coming. And that was the exact same formation that the Steelers were in the previous play after the Browns had called a timeout. And they were ready for it. That's play calling right there. Then the draw play on 4th and inches. I mean, do I even need to sit down here and say how dumb that is? I mean, you're running a draw play on 4th and inches. Russell Wilson, yes, I agree. His legs are nowhere near what they used to be when he was, say 10 years younger. But don't tell me that with a quarterback like Russell Wilson that you don't have any confidence that he can pick up an inch to get a first down. Instead, they run a draw play. And again, the Browns are ready for it. It's the most obvious draw play in the world. Browns are ready for it. They swallowed him up right there. Terrible. Just absolutely terrible. And then on top of that, I mean, you get on top of that, the formation was dumb as well. You know, because it was pretty much the exact same one from the previous play. Like I said, Arthur Smith is reminding me of Matt Canada with just more variety. And he is a big reason for why the Steelers were getting nowhere offensively for 3.5 quarters on Thursday. And it took a strip sack by Nick Herbig and a otherwise bad a otherwise bad play on defense for the Browns for even us to get a touchdown. Because this is what Arthur Smith is starting to do with this offense over the past couple weeks. And yes, I understand we've been putting points on the board, and I understand that we've been moving the chains. But the thing with me that I've noticed is that once the Steelers get past midfield, they just stall there. Why? Because Arthur Smith doesn't really know what to call after that. He doesn't really know how to be aggressive once we get past midfield, once we're in opponent territory. And you see it with stuff like the red zone inefficiencies. The red zone offense is still very bad. The offensive play calling in the red zone is very bad. Running the ball inside in the red zone is real bad. Russ's reads inside the red zone remain bad. It seems like, remember in my pregame preview against Washington a couple weeks ago, where I said that for as good as Washington's offense is, the bulk of their offense was from big chunk plays from from Jaden Daniels. That's kind of like what Russell Wilson has been over the past couple weeks, because yes, the Steelers offense is as good as it looked for the past couple of seasons, but it kind of seems like we can't get that play in the red zone. We have to rely on big plays and big passes by Russ in order for us to get any kind of offensive production. And you see that when Russ is taking deep shots and he's connecting with Pickens and he's connecting with CA3. There was like no offensive production for the Steelers outside of a couple of deep shots until midway through the fourth quarter. And then our second touchdown of the game, this is where I really just kind of lost it with Arthur Smith, was, first of all, it was again a big play connection from Russell Wilson to CA3 to give the Steelers a 19-18 lead. And then the Steelers go for two, which I agree with. I agree. You go for two, you go up by 3 points. At that point, your job is to say to the Browns, look, we came back on you, and if you're going to win this game, we're going to have you beat us. Okay? So I agree for going for two right there. The play call on that 2-point conversion, I don't agree with whatsoever. Because why are you lining up Cordell Patterson one-on-one as Russell Wilson's primary read, and then on top of that, Russ just tosses it up to him? No, not George Pickens, not CA3, not even Darnell Washington or Pat Freiermuth. He tosses it up to Cordell Patterson on that play when he's lined up one-on-one. That's play calling. So, needless to say, that didn't work out. And it was still a 4-point game. And like I said, that final sequence in the fourth quarter where it should have been intentional grounding, because it was a nice blitz play by Patrick Queen right there to level Jameis Winston. His arm was doing forward progress, no eligible receiver there. It's intentional grounding. Instead, they call it illegal touching, and initially Tomlin declines it, which I don't agree with the call anyway, because like I said, it should have been intentional grounding. But regardless, Tomlin initially declines it, and then he changes his mind and accepts it, which makes no sense whatsoever, because now you're just giving the Browns another chance at a third down play. Instead of it being fourth down, And you could see the Browns were clearly going to go for it on fourth down right there because they had no confidence in their kicker at all. Not that I blame them because it was snow, because the heavens just opened up as it was snowing and the TV screen in the field was white. Okay. Even if it was a short field goal attempt, I don't blame the Browns for not having confidence in their kicker. Me personally, I had no confidence with either kicker on Thursday's game. That's just me, though. I mean, I saw it when, sure, you can say, well, Boswell missed a 58-yarder in the first quarter. I'm not going to go too hard on Bos right there because I don't care what the conditions are. A 58-yarder is a hard kick to make. It may not seem very hard anymore, but when I grew up, you know, when I first started watching football and when I grew up watching football, a 58-yarder was a tough kick to make. Okay. Nowadays, 58 yarders are like chip shots, but that's a hard field goal to me. But anyway, I had no confidence in either kicker on Thursday's game, and I think the Browns should have went for it on fourth down because, like I said, they had no confidence in their kicker, and the Browns were perfect on fourth down all day. So he initially declines the penalty, and then he changes his mind and accepts it to give the Browns another chance at third down. I don't understand why you accept the penalty right there. Because when you decline a penalty, when you decline a penalty, you're basically putting the penalty on them to knock them back as it serves an advantage to you, as it gives you better field position and it gives them less of a chance to convert a play. And the penalty works in your advantage. That's why you decline it. When you're accepting the penalty, you're enforcing the penalty on the other team to give them another crack at the previous play. Whereas if you decline it, it's almost if the flag wasn't even thrown and you're just accepting the play for as it was. So Tomlin accepts it. I can't believe I have to sit down here and say what the difference between accepting and declining a penalty is because apparently our head coach don't know the difference between accepting and declining a penalty. And I understand. And guess what happened? The Browns converted their first third down the entire game. That's right. The Browns hadn't converted on a third down for the entire game. But after Tomlin accepts the penalty and then calls a timeout inexplicably, they convert a third down. And then they get the game-winning touchdown 2 plays later. That's what it is. Coaching mishaps. Yes, the defense got destroyed. Yes, we couldn't do anything offensively. But guess what? It was a sign of coaching down the final phases of the game. And that wasn't even the first penalty that Tomlin wasted. Because remember, in the first half, Tomlin inexplicably called a timeout there on second down instead of third down to give the Browns a chance of kicking a field goal. And then you give us less time to drive down the field. Same applies here. Now you have 57 seconds to go in the blizzard down by 5 with Russell Wilson with only one timeout to go to try and win the game. And it failed. No receivers open on that Hail Mary play whatsoever, and we fail it. Like I said, I'm not sitting down here overreacting that, we're not going to make the playoffs and we're going to have, a repeat of 2018 or God forbid 2020 again. I ain't saying that. But this loss right here, I don't care if you're the biggest Mike Tomlin fan in the world. I don't care if you're the biggest Arthur Smith fan in the world. This loss Thursday is on those two 100%. It is. You can chop it down to the turnovers that we had. You can chop it down to the defense giving up play after play, the fourth down defense, whatever you want to pick and choose. Fact of the matter is, the biggest reason the Steelers lost, even if you want to blame the weather, but like I said, the weather is the least of our concerns for Thursday's game. Whatever you want to boil it down to, the biggest culprits for Thursday's loss are Tomlin and Arthur Smith. Those sequences should not have happened, and that play calling needs to be better. Because, like I think anybody knows how I feel about Tomlin. I don't need to sit down here and reiterate that for the thousandth time. But Arthur Smith, I'm not ready to give up on him yet. I don't want to give up on him yet. But this play calling needs to get cleaned up. This play calling needs to be improved. Because now you got the Cincinnati Bengals coming up. My preview should be out probably on Thanksgiving morning, so stay tuned for that. Now you got the Bengals coming up, and despite what their record is, the Bengals are a very productive offensive team. Burrow is putting up probably the best season of his career. Jamar Chase is probably putting up the best season of his career. The Bengals have a sloppy defense, yes, but I'm telling you this right now. If we get in a shootout against the Bengals, I do not feel confident with picking up a win right there. So, in order for us to walk away with a win against the Bengals, this defense probably has to hold the Bengals to, I would say, under 21 points. And we're going to have to win it with defense and offense coming up at opportune times again. But that play calling and that sequence of events with the penalty, that cannot happen against a team like the Bengals. Because I don't care what their record is, if you fuck up against them like you did against the Browns, they're going to make you pay for it. So, just a terrible loss Thursday. Those need to come out here. And this is why this team right now is really starting to remind me in years past of how we collapsed in 2018 and 2020 and so on. Although I will say this is, I've sat down here and said this team legitimately feels like they're 8-2. This team legitimately feels good. And I haven't changed my mind on that yet. But if another sequence like that happens, then there's going to be some real second thoughts. I mean, if you'd have asked me this time last month if I thought this team could win a playoff game, I'd say yes, definitely. But over the past couple weeks, I'm not so sure now. It's seriously giving me vibes from years past. I mean, yes, you won 5 in a row. You had a nice win streak going. You had nice momentum. But Thursday's game just showed you, hey, you know what, guys? You are 8-3. You're having a great season, but you got issues that you need to iron out. And you have issues and you got problems that you need to work out on. Period, point blank. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'm Mac, checking on out for the day. Have a good one, everybody.